Ross, what were your expectations last night?
I thought it'd be a close game, Dan, and I thought at the end that Brady and Belichick would be the better bet to go with than Dan Quinn and Matt Ryan late, which proved to be the case, but not nearly how I thought it would go down. I mean, for three quarters, I don't know if the Patriots were in slow motion or the Falcons were in fast forward, but the Patriots were getting absolutely killed. The Falcons looked like the younger, faster, better team. I still cannot believe that happened, and if I'm a Falcons player today, I am sick, and I can't imagine getting over this for a long, long time.
What is halftime like in the Patriots locker room?
Probably pretty businesslike at that point. You know, it's 21-3, which isn't that unreasonable. And if you noticed, and I know everybody was tweeting it last night, but you know, their first, all the other Super Bowls, they never scored in the first quarter. So I think it's pretty calm, relatively speaking. Here's what we need to do to change it. And the one thing I always tell people, Dan, I wasn't in New England that long. I was there parts of 2 seasons. But when you have Brady as your quarterback, you still always think you're going to win. Like you always believe until the game's over that you're going to win because you've got the guy. And I was on plenty of teams where we didn't have the guy, and we knew that too. It just, I can't tell you how much it does for the confidence or really lack thereof, and whether it's conscious or subconscious among teammates when you have that guy or you don't.
Explain to me, as a former offensive lineman, the Patriots' offensive line was a whole lot better, bordering on great, in the third, certainly fourth quarter and overtime, whereas they were getting manhandled by the same pass rush. They're not bringing any extra people. And why was New England's offensive line so much better in the second half than the first half?
I think it's two things. Primarily, I think Brady was doing a better job of getting rid of the ball faster. If you notice, there was a bunch of times where his receivers couldn't get open.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were like glue. And then even in the second half, when he was getting rid of the ball and they were getting open, there was a bunch of drops. I think Edelman had 2. I know Hogan had 1 or 2. But more than anything else, and I've told people this, Dan, I had 9 offensive line coaches when I was in the NFL. But Dante Scarnecchia, who they got out of retirement this year, he had by far the toughest individual period I was ever a part of. Every practice, I felt like I might throw up because that's how hard it was, and that's how much we were running. So people, I thought the high school kids, college kids, the heaviest guy we had was Logan Mankins at 312. We were all lean and mean between 300 and 308, and it looked to me like they were just in much better shape than the Falcons. And when you're going to have 92 plays like that, the D lineman especially, it's the most tiring position in sports. They're just going to run out of gas, and they did.
I also look at the play calling. I've been banging on this all day long. The fourth quarter, I don't understand why you're not using the clock, even on a 3rd and 1 with 8 minutes to go. And I know the end result was Hightower with the strip sack, which I do think changed the game. You get to 4.5 minutes, Ross, you're at the 22-yard line, first down, and you're up by 8. I don't understand why you're not running the clock and there's only so much time in a game. And if Brady doesn't have any time left, he's not beating you. I just don't understand. Explain that to me, the logic of throwing the football with 4 minutes to go, up 8 at the 22-yard line.
I really can't. And I even have a problem. I mean, Dan, did you see how many times they snapped the ball late in the third quarter or the fourth quarter with 10 or 15 seconds on the play clock?
Yeah, I just mentioned that. I didn't understand that too.
What are you doing? And then the real problem, I can almost live with the other play, the Hightower play you mentioned, 3rd and 1 passing. But when you're averaging over 6 yards to carry at that point, why are you in the shotgun when you're throwing? Like, why is it not a play-action pass? It's extremely frustrating. It's why I feel so bad for the Falcons players and their fans. Now, I will say this, as players, we're supposed to take personal accountability and responsibility. Devontae Freeman has to pick up Hightower. Ryan has to get the ball out of his hands. Matt Ryan can't take the next sack that he took on 2nd down. Jake Matthews can't hold. But you're 1,000% correct. I think Dan Quinn is that hands-off offensively that he just lets Kyle Shanahan do his thing. And it's like Kyle Shanahan did not realize the game situation. If they run it 3 times, kick a field goal, they're up 11, less than 4 minutes left. The odds that the Patriots get touchdown, 2-point conversion, onside kick, and field goal are minimal at that point. It's a comedy of errors that cost the Falcons the championship, and just mind-bogglingly bad. We always want to give Belichick credit, and we should, and he deserves it. But that's just terrible coaching on the other side.
He's Ross Tucker, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, former NFL lineman, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. I know we haven't had overtime in the Super Bowl until last night, and there'll probably be a push to overhaul overtime now that we've had the Patriots winning the way they did. Have any problem with overtime in the playoffs?
No, in fact, I always go the other way. I mean, you think about it, the Falcons had already played over 80 snaps at that point. I never talked with a guy, Dan, when I was playing or afterwards, that had a problem with sudden death. So, and I'm sitting next to my wife last night, and she's like, okay, so what happens now? I said, well, whoever scores first, it doesn't, if they get a touchdown, they win. I don't know why we made it more confusing than it had to be. And quite frankly, I know that there's some sentiment, and Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, who's a buddy of ours, feels that way, Peter King, that they should both get a chance. Why do the Falcons deserve a chance there? I mean, they blew like 5 chances in the third and fourth. They don't deserve another chance. I don't want to watch them again. They blew it. I don't need to see them again. I like the way it ended with Brady scoring, and it ended up being sudden death. Even if it's a field goal, though, I'm fine with that. I like the old sudden death. I don't like. There's a reason why. What was there 3 or 4 games that were ties last year?
Yeah.
Not a fan of that.
Ross, thank you. Great to talk to you. Thanks for all your contributions during the football season, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Dan.
That's Ross Tucker, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast and former offensive lineman in the NFL.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.